eventually you get absorbed in, and you are Sonic.
Hey everybody, welcome back to No Repeat. It's a podcast where we pick 3 songs every week with no repeats and no do-overs to create the perfect playlist for your next dinner party. I'm Taylor Olmstead and I'm joined by my co-hosts, Tyler Reed.
Well, I happen to like The Cat Show.
And Sean Evans.
Speaking of alternative shows that are probably better than the original, Van Neistat, way better of a person than Casey.
Whoa, okay, hot take.
He went there. Tyler, what was our challenge this week?
This week, we're challenged to find the perfect song for the time after you've cleaned your place, but before company arrives, submitted by Zach Foltz. And if you want to submit your own challenge, you can DM us, add us, NoRepeatPod on Instagram or Twitter, or you can always send us an email, norepeatpod@gmail.com. Thanks so much.
I love this challenge. It's a good holidays challenge, but it's a good all-year-round challenge, because it's not specific. It's just, you've cleaned your place, and the people aren't there yet. And
it is specific in the moment.
yes, but not the occasion.
Yeah.
We really like to entertain, Josiah and I. We try to do it fairly regularly, but with his schedule, it's kind of challenging. But I would say probably once a month or so, we at least have another couple over for dinner or something. Do you guys entertain much?
Absolutely not.
My Enneagram, as I just found out, is I am the host. So, as it turns out, I have figured out that I actually really like to host, though, as a peasant that works the weekends, I don't often find time for myself to really throw a fancy party or whatnot. But, I generally enjoy having people over. I think there's a lot of fun in serving people. I think in sort of crafting an experience. I think that's a lot of fun. I enjoy that. So, yeah.
Sean, are you opposed to hosting? Because some people are. It's just not people's thing.
I'm not opposed to it. It's not something that I like to do. It's not because I don't have a clean house or, it's more like, it's a lot of work.
Yeah. I get that.
Something that I'm super enthused about all the time. It's just kind of, you come over, I feel anxiety going to other places. Let me give you one example. I feel like now that I moved back to Ohio, people here, depending on where you live, people do stuff differently. And this will make sense. There's probably something that people do in Atlanta that they don't do in Ohio at get-togethers. One of those things that they would do in DC was they would, if you brought food, basically no one would eat in front of each other. So you might spend this whole time making something that you wanted to have, and then everybody would have a couple people would eat, and then most of your food would just do stuff. So when we would take stuff to stuff, invite people or go someplace, I would take food that I would want to eat, and then I would try and eat as much of it as I could when I was there because I didn't want to take it home after I'd been sitting out for hours. Or I would just bring a very little amount of something, knowing that no one was going to eat. But now that I'm back here, people actually do eat. When you go out and there's appetizers, people come and eat it. They'll fill their plate and do that kind of thing. It's not taboo to eat in front of each other. Probably because you don't live in a city and, you're a grown adult who is you know what? I'm capable of not feeling judged by my peers that I had a slice of pizza. So there's just all that stuff. I don't want to bring that into my house. Plus, I don't think I've gotten over that college time, too, where, I don't know if you guys had college parties at your house, but when you have, I don't know, we always had to do it, where if you had somebody over, you had a party, you, hid your shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel I know lots of people that had a party at their place or had a get-together that was more than just, their very close friends, and then somehow a couple weeks later a home intrusion happened, right? Coincidentally.
Typical college town stuff, yeah.
Right. I was I don't want to do this. So, I don't know. That's just me.
See, I've come all the way back around on it, though, because I lived in a party town, party college town. I remember many a night on big weekends like homecoming, Halloween, things like that, where people who used to live in our house would stumble up drunk because they couldn't remember that they had graduated and moved out of that house. Like, it happened all the time. So, you know, in that environment, combined with living with roommates, I wasn't really like super pumped about entertaining. But since moving to Atlanta and working full-time office jobs and like having a consistent friend group, it's become much more of an occurrence. And so generally speaking, when we entertain, like, it's one of maybe 24 people that's coming over, you know, and it's very rare that all of those people are in one place at the same time. My bachelor party, I think, was the last time. No, there was a Halloween party right after that like all 24 people or 25 people were all in one place at the same time. The rest of the time, like, I had a fire in the backyard the other night, and it was 5 of us. You know, it's not a big to-do, but it's still like, I want to clean my house up, and I want it to look nice, and I always make sure I have drinks on hand, even though everybody knows at this point to bring their own. Not because it's like college BYOB, like you can't afford it, but more that like you never know if people are going to have what you like. And, you know, there's varying degrees of like, this was literally a text people that afternoon to come over that evening. All I really had to do was like put the chairs out in the backyard and make sure I had some firewood. As opposed to like, if we're having another couple over for dinner, we're going to get a couple bottles of wine, we're going to clean, we're going to, you know, have a menu prepared, we're going to do the thing. It's effectively a double date that just happens to be at our house. And I love doing that too, but I kind of like my house to just be the kind of place that people come to. And I like to like create that vibe. I get the sense that you're kind of similar in that, Tyler. Like, I know that you throw a big Friendsgiving every year and you get really into that whole process.
I do, yes. Because I don't know, because it's also sort of like, for me, it's also sort of like a birthday, because as I previously said, I just sort of just like doing nice things for people. So that's sort of like, you know, like, I feel like I hadn't really, like, since I'm living in a house with someone, it's like, oh, it's a much easier thing to do, you know. But I feel like before this house, I was living with someone, and it was like not like a great like party space. It wasn't really a space I really felt like I wanted people to kind of be in. And then I don't know, it's I feel like it is a little weird with a roommate, depending on kind of the vibe. Like, if you know, because you kind of want them to be like, sometimes you want them to like be included in that thing, and then it sort of like involves like the planning of that, and then it's like, well, you want to kind of invite some people you think that other person might like, or, you know, like, well, maybe I'm overly concerned with that, but that feels like important to me, that it's like the person who is also living here is not like annoyed by the people that I'm having over.
Yeah,
you know,
I mean,
like,
I was lucky to have a roommate that was in the same friend group for a long time.
Yeah.
But even then, it was like, well, I'm going to invite our mutual friends. I'm not going to invite a bunch of my coworkers. Because, like,
right.
They don't know them. They don't want them there.
Yeah. And that's like fine. You know, like, we definitely have our mutual friends over semi-frequently, but, you know, I feel like boy hangs. You play video games on the couch, and you're like, you know, it's
doesn't really
when
qualify
I had,
as hosting.
Yeah, like when I had like a previous partner was like, oh, we should have these people over to play like D&D, and she was like, oh, we should, you know, like, what are we gonna eat, or like, you know, like, what time are they coming over, blah blah blah. I had like all these sort of details, but it's, I'm like, but at the time I was like, oh, you know, do we need to get food for them? Like, okay, we'll figure out kind of in the moment, you know, like, because that's like historically what I had done. But now that my brain has been rewired to becoming a planner, I'm like, oh yeah, we gotta make sure everybody knows exactly when to be there, what to bring, you know, like, I've become much more like mechanical in that way.
Yeah, no, I think you're kind of going in the same direction that I'm going, Tyler, where like you have a checklist you run down. Right, like, gotta make sure that the table is cleared off and there's space to put things. Gotta have a space for people to put their coats if it's wintertime. Gotta make sure there's a fresh roll of toilet paper in all the bathrooms. You know, gotta light a candle. Like, make sure the trash has already been taken out because you're gonna generate a bunch of trash. Like, you gotta do all those things. And I am the kind of person who, like, I'm doing those things and then inevitably I get them all done 10 minutes before the time I told people the event is going to start, which means 40 minutes before people are actually going to show up, because heaven forbid anyone show up less than 30 minutes after the start time. I get it. I'm that person sometimes too, but like, not to roast anyone in particular.
I have never been intentionally late to anything.
I haven't either. I think it's a Midwest thing.
I'm like, if I'm late, it's because I something terrible has happened. You know, like whenever the party says it's gonna start, you know, that's when I want to be there. You know, like
Right.
because at the very least, you know, I feel like that is usually good to get time in with like the host. Like if you want to like have like a specific conversation with them before it kind of devolves into like a free for all. Because I'm very much a one-on-one. Because I'm sometimes hopelessly introverted in that way. I have trouble in a group. So yeah. So it's either like I'm staying early or I'm staying late to kind of like make sure I kind of get in like my talk time with everyone kind of individually to kind of make sure I'm like touching base. So yeah, I do not like being late on purpose. It destroys my brain.
Sean, how do you do with the anticipation of the people are going to arrive but they're not here yet?
Oh, it's fine. I usually just leave the door open. I don't like it I don't like going to people's houses when they know I'm supposed to be there and they do it. So I try to be prepared, but it's not like I don't stand at the door and wait, I guess.
Oh,
So,
I do.
You come when you come.
Can't take me anywhere. Can't do anything with me. I'm like looking out the window.
This is why, like, I feel like you need to have the right music. Like, this is our strong suit, because I am like meticulous about the music that's on when we're hosting something. And thankfully, like, Apple Music has some really great playlists that are like curated for this. Like their dinner party essentials playlist is just a really good playlist. And I use it all the time, even when we don't have people over. Like, I was just driving around running errands to it today. But I need like a ramp up. Like, I don't want to be like super amped before people get there, because, you know, you don't want to be all like overly hyped for 30 minutes before anyone arrives. You kind of want the slow build. And so I have a couple of albums or a couple of playlists that are just kind of like nice, light, breezy, you know, not sleepy music, but I want to be like in a cool headspace. I want to be calm and collected and ready. And so that's kind of what I was after this week. I wanted something that was like, take a few minutes of you time after you've cleaned the whole house to just like mentally prepare, you know, but not so calming that you're going to fall asleep, or that you're not going to be like, or you're going to be like alarmed when the doorbell rings. Like, that's kind of what I was after. But what about you guys? What was your methodology here?
Oh, this is mood music. I just picked a song that had elements that I liked, that I would play. Like, I kind of put myself in a situation, like today, if I was going to put on a song, I just finished cleaning, which I did clean, and think about people coming over. Like, if I had a stereo system, what would I put on? And this song felt right. So, that's what I picked.
I feel like my North Star was anything that I've probably bought on vinyl is going to be something that will probably fit in. Now, that being said, my vinyl collection does have that Holly Herndon album with the Sacred Heart music on it. So, like, maybe not that one, but, like, I feel like the sort of, like, standards of, like, those albums that everyone just kind of has sort of, like, hanging out in their collection because everyone has 10 billion copies of Fleetwood Mac's Rumors, or, like, you know, or like a Stevie Wonder album, or like, you know, or like a Crosby, Stills and Nash, or some sort of like classic rock pantheon. So I feel like that was kind of like sort of like the vibe I was going for. Whereas I feel like when I'm thinking about hosting like a party, or like thinking about like even as like a kid, like remembering like people coming in for like a birthday party, there's I feel like there's always like a warmth that you're trying to create in the space. Like, even if it's like in the summer, I feel like you're trying to make the space feel inviting, and that sort of evokes the idea of warmth. And so I feel like I was kind of looking for a song that felt comfortable, that felt sort of at ease, kind of like what you were saying, Taylor, where it's like you want something that is a little upbeat, has got a little bit of a energy to it, but isn't totally sleepy music. But you really can't be like ramping up to 200%, you know, in the first like 30 minutes that people are getting there anyway, because it's a marathon. As a host, you is not a sprint, unless that's the kind of party you're having, unless you're having a sprinting party.
I'm all about a theme party, but that may be a bit much. Well, does anybody want to go first? If not, I can.
I think you should go first, Taylor. You know, I think that would be good.
All right. Very good. This week, I chose Time Moves Slow by Bad Bad Not Good featuring Sam Herring.
When you're out on your own, and the time moves slow, when you're missing a friend, and the time moves slow, when you get to the end. Running away is easy, it's the leaving that's hard. Running away is easy.
So, Bad Bad Not Good is a instrumental jazz and hip hop group from Canada. They've done as much like instrumental jazz recording as they have hip hop production. They do a lot of work with Tyler the Creator, with Kendrick Lamar, big names. You've almost certainly heard a beat that they've made for someone. But they've released a few albums of their original compositions that occasionally feature guest vocals. And this one features Sam Herring, the frontman from Future Islands. And his voice is just so nice over top of this groove that they're laying down here. I really like this album, their fourth studio album, but this track in particular is the standout to me because it just feels so timeless, like classic soul. Even though it's got like, you know, some contemporary production techniques going on, and it's got some, you know, very future nostalgia synths on it. Like, it's clearly a 2020s song pretending to be an old song, but they do it so well that I'm like not mad about it. Like, they're very apparent in their influences, but they pull them off. And I think the thing that like makes this feel right to me is it's got a restraint to it. Like, everybody feels like they're just holding back a little bit, which is how I want to feel as I'm getting ready for the party. Like, I'm getting excited, but not too excited. The part that really gets me is the ride cymbal on the chorus. Like, the way that is played and mic'd is just so perfect. It's so shimmery, and like, it's the fastest thing on the whole track, and it's not even that fast, but it's just got enough propulsion to be like kicking things into gear. I don't know, like, it's just a real cool, slow, groovy track. I really like it.
I want the jazz correspondent to go first.
Oh, yeah, I get to go first? Oh, excellent. This has two of my favorite things in it. It's got jazz and my favorite electro wizard, Sam Herring. Oh, goodness. So, I mean, obviously, this is two things I love. So, obviously, just right out the gate, incredible. I feel like Sam has to be like top 5 probably of my favorite vocalists. Like, I just feel like of male vocals. Because the whole other list of like women would probably be too long to count. But he's definitely one of my favorite dudes singing, because I feel like he just has such a I feel like he can just evoke so much emotion out of all of his words. I feel like it's never quite the same emotion each time. Like, I feel like he's not quite as like forlorn like in this, you know, like, I mean, he's feeling like a different kind of pain. Like, I feel like he's always evoking some kind of pain in his voice when he's singing, and you just feel it. You feel it in every word he says, and I think that's really just what makes him such a standout vocalist for me. And it's just such a distinct sound to it. But yeah, I think it's also very funny that you chose tangentially like a meme song because this was it's that song that people use for like an Adult Swim bumper on TikTok, the sped up version of it.
Yes, they do.
I was like, did you remember that trend from like last
over a
year
year
maybe?
ago?
Yeah. God, trends go so quickly now. But I was listening to it. I was like, this feels so familiar. Why do I know this from somewhere? And I did, to be fair, I had no idea who the vocalist was because it's sped up to sound like a chipmunk. So it's like, and I listened to the sped up version. I was like, oh, this song's, they could have like messed with it like a little bit more.
Yeah, no, they literally just doubled the speed.
Yeah,
That's
like
all
they
they
could have
did.
like tweaked it like just a little bit to like make it perfect, but I think it's still like a compelling as a sped up version. But I will say I like this far more. I mean, I feel like that should be clear. I think it is exactly the vibe that I would choose as well, because I mean I'm always about that jazz, baby. You know I love getting the jazz out right before a party. You know, it just gives you so much. It empowers me so much because it's just Sean's gonna make fun of me, but I feel like jazz is undeniably cool. That there's just such a, especially in this situation where everyone, like you said, everyone feels restrained. It's just enough. It's almost like the lack of energy is like the cool factor, what makes it feel sexy. You know, it feels lackadaisical, but it's so tight. So yeah, I feel like this is a song I would choose for this challenge. So I'm mad that you picked it, but good job.
I might have picked this song less the vocals. I don't think that they added anything in particular. I don't think it's jazzy.
You're wrong.
It has more of a it has more of a neo soul feel to it. With the drums and the guitar. It's just not my vibe though.
That's okay.
It feels a little.
You don't like a warrior poet?
I still don't
on
like
top
the
of some
warrior
neo
poet.
soul.
Like, I'll be vulnerable for a second. I'm intimidated by jazz.
The truth finally comes out.
But
He finally says it.
But I feel like this is pretty approachable.
Yeah.
Well, that's a comment in general. But it's mostly because I feel like people that want to talk about jazz are people that care more about music than I care. And they're incapable of having fun. So that's my cue. That it's time to go.
Hey Seth, how's it going? Hope you're listening, buddy.
I'm not saying that if you like jazz that you're a bad person. What I'm saying is if you talk jazz, then I don't really want to talk to you. That's usually one of my keys. Like, I know that you guys have rules. Where you're like going to a situation, someone brings something up, you're like, whoop, I'm out. One of those, I have like two of those things about music. One is immediately going into talking about jazz, and two is describing themselves as having perfect pitch. I'm like, well, hey, that was cool. So I'm going to go over here now, and then I'm going to leave. But it's been great up until this point, so see ya. But I get it. This definitely feels like your vibe.
You don't have to love every song, and that's fine.
He just doesn't like everyone's electro wizard. That's fine.
Tyler, would you like to go next?
Oh, please. For a distinctly different vibe. But in the same, strangely the same realm, somehow. This week I chose Making Memories by Melissa Carper.
I'm making memories I'd like to remember. I'm meeting new people I'd like to recall. Some of their names, like Larry and Steve. I'm making memories I'd like to keep.
Sean has completely influenced me in that I have completely become on the side of country is good and correct. And so this Friendsgiving, historically I make like a Friendsgiving playlist. It, doesn't get used sometimes. But this year was, let's see, it's called Giving 3 Revengeance. And so the style of it was sort of like, folk country bluegrass sort of like area, and sort of kind of having a nice mixture of sort of like old and new sounds. And so that involved me also kind of doing like just a bunch of like using Spotify's like enhanced features to kind of find some extra little artists that I might have missed throughout time, like throughout like kind of my searching. And so this album showed up, and I kind of was looking for things for this challenge, and I felt like this just fit so perfectly. And so I feel like, at the very least, I think what draws it in and really like sells it as like an idea is that I feel like it's a little down tempo, like it's, you know, it's kind of a little jaunty. It's a little jazzy. And it's a little country-y. It doesn't feel like it doesn't demand too much of your attention. You know, it's got a nice little organ kind of going on there, and I feel like it's just nice and pleasant. But I feel like the real like cherry on top for it is that the song lyrically also feel like kind of is like the trials and tribulations of hosting or having a party, right? Some of the lyrics are I'm making memories I'd like to remember. I'm meeting new people I'd like to recall. Some of their names like Larry and Steve, I'm making memories I'd like to keep. And so it's just sort of like, I really like the idea of I'm going to make memories that I'm going to remember. And I feel like every party really should be that. You know, I feel like you should be able to sort of like recall some part of it. And I feel like that's maybe not necessarily 100% on the host, but, you know, it's kind of on the people, and it's kind of on everyone. And so, I try really hard to be present when I'm at a party, so that way I can sort of like have those memories. And so I feel like lyrically it was just sort of sweet in that way, sort of cute, and I feel like it just sort of it fit the challenge very nicely. I will say the only thing that I'm nonplussed on is that like I didn't like the Gaslight Anthem's 59 sound. She does use like that sort of like old timey sort of like vocal production that sort of feels like it won't ever fit into most other playlists or songs that aren't this album. But, you know, like I think it's a cool effect. I have to let that bias like free from like from myself. I can't let that hang over me the rest of my life.
Sean, I'm gonna let you take the first stab at this one.
Uh-oh.
Okay, so if you bumped this up about 60 beats a minute and got rid of that horrible jazz piano, this would be a pretty good song. It's not folk. This is like if Charlie Brown was set in like Tennessee.
Hell yeah. That's perfect.
Or some sort of New Orleans Christmas thing. Look, Taylor's you gotta turn away because he knows I'm right.
You're 100% right.
Is that also why I like it? Yes.
I like the song, but I think that it's kind of a huge cop-out to add this piano player there.
Oh, it's not even that for me. I'm sorry, Tyler, you're about to get roasted. This is some goofy music. This is a goofy movie, is what this is.
Okay.
You have just, like, dialed up the goof so high on this. I mean, it's not quite Taste the Biscuit, but it's pretty close. It's so earnest that it immediately tips over into, like, I want it to be making fun of itself, and it's not doing that enough for it to actually be funny, and so instead it's like somebody somewhere thinks this is a really moving song, and I'm very happy for them, but it doesn't do it for me. It's a no for me, dog. I think the vocal delivery is rough. I think the lyrics are, like, boring at best, lazy at worst. The line about the names of the people.
Yeah.
And then there's a whole, like, weird talk song bridge about the name of a cat.
Yeah.
I'm like, what is this?
I thought that part
what
was
is
endearing.
happening?
Just to counterpoint him, I thought that part was, like, folky endearing.
No, it doesn't work for me.
Well, okay.
The rhythm section, I will counter Sean though. The rhythm section is the only part of this that works for me. I think the upright bass and the honky tonk piano are great. It's but I'm also the kind of person that like actually enjoys Paul McCartney's granny songs, as John Lennon called them, the Beatles songs that are just like real old timey. What I don't like is the Wurlitzer organ on this. The real slidey electric organ. You already have a honky tonk piano. You don't need both, and quite frankly, you don't deserve both. It's too much.
Yeah. Well, I feel like I continuously strive on this podcast to at least deliver something at least interesting. And I feel like it's something. It's something all right.
Can't believe that this man just took a moment of talking about your song to dump on Rocky the Raccoon. What an ass.
I love that song. It's not for everybody. This is somehow more earnest and goofy than that song, which is saying a lot.
It's fine. Listen, sometimes you hurt my feelings when you don't like my song. I don't. I'm not that worried about it.
I also dislike the album title Daddy's Country Gold.
That's also fine.
Sean, what did you bring us?
Oh, everyone's gonna love this episode because we're fighting.
They are. They really are.
Okay, so this week I chose Tanuki-chan, 100 Bands. So, I put myself in this situation today. It's like we've gone into Cleveland winter, with the exception that it was like 55 today. The rain is here. It's gray a lot, and I want that northeastern Ohio sound, which is for me that heavily distorted, almost fuzz, chug kind of thing.
I love fuzz.
As a very nice low fidelity quality. I think there was some positive Smashing Pumpkins vibes that I got off of this song, so I like that a lot. I like her like wispy voice. It kind of reminds me of some other picks that I put in this fall, and I like that it's a guitar driven track, that the guitar is mixed really high, and it's not that complicated. Everything about it just felt right. Like I just got done cleaning up. I'm waiting for somebody to come over.
I'm not surprised that you brought up Smashing Pumpkins, and I hear it too. I also read that this album was produced by Chaz Bear of Toro y Moi, which makes a lot of sense. This feels like that Smashing Pumpkins sound, but with that kind of 2010s chill wave that Toro y Moi became known for. Like your beach houses and your washed out Neon Indian, like all that kind of hipster stuff.
It's literally those two things.
Yeah. And I like that. I like that a lot. This, I've been thinking about how to come up with this challenge, but this is like a reverse engineering of the challenge for me. It's like the songs that are playing low in the background in the record store.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're perceptibly cool even at a low volume, but they're not so like in your face that it's like, oh, the guy who runs the record store has like really interesting taste. It's like you hear it in the background and you're just like, oh yeah, this is cool. This is kind of a vibe. And that's like the right kind of party. This is the exact vibe. Like if I'm just having people over, like drink some beers, maybe play cards or something, this is the vibe. Like I would absolutely have this on. Nice and low. I love the way that it's mixed, to your point, that like the vocals punch out over top of these very loud guitars. Because I even played with like, how low can I turn this song and still understand the vocal melody? And you could you can turn it down pretty low. And I think that's a good feature of like background party music or like entertaining music, is like it needs to be perceptible without being played at full volume. And this passes that test for me. I really dig this.
I mean, it's good. I mean, I'm into it. It does have this specific like Smashing Pumpkins distortion that like I'm like, this is. You could just inject that straight into my veins, baby. And I'm like, I'm good. That's, you know, like the first time I heard Cherub Rock, I was changed as a person. Like this is the best song I've ever heard in my entire life, which is also why I decided to steal it as a time thief from the Smashing Pumpkins in our previous episode, because they didn't need it. They had enough other hits. But yeah, I mean, you're right that sort of like her ethereal voice does sort of like doesn't necessarily demand like the attention. Doesn't necessarily really need you to sort of really focus on it. So you can kind of keep doing what, you know, little cleaning here and there. And it really kind of is like this really just delicious guitar sound that just like sort of really kind of keeps you going, keeps you moving forward. And I really enjoy that. I mean, I was gonna be curious as to what sort of like your like approach for this was, because I feel like lyrically it's not super related, but honestly none of our songs, well, I mean mine was, well, I also chose a bad song, so I feel like this definitely was like a vibe challenge, like 100%. Like no one was gonna get like roasted for like choosing a song that like lyrically wasn't in the wheelhouse. But yeah, I mean, I think it's good. Have you listened to this person's music otherwise?
No, I found this on I think after I had finished a playlist on Spotify. It was just running. I was in the car and I was like, "Oh, sounds kind of cool." So I hit heart on it.
Yeah. Because I don't think I'm not super familiar. Tori
Moi.
Yeah, not super familiar with them either. So I'm like, I feel like if I like this and I like that, I feel like I should probably just go ahead and to listen to both these.
I don't know. This song is kind of a vibe. Like this, it's funny that you guys said that you would play this at a party because I would not.
Not at a party, but just like having people over hanging out.
Yeah, even then, I think I wouldn't play this song. I feel like I'm pretty good at willing to listen to music that people don't want to listen to. So
gotta have more faith in your taste.
I mean, I think the idea is that
this is for me.
I feel like Taylor said, it kind of has to be like if you're gonna play something and like people happen to show up, like you definitely want it to be like a little cool. Which I realize I didn't do, but that's fine. But you wanted to have at least a little bit of like, ooh, what are we listening to? And you're like, oh, you know, it's just something I'm like trying on. And it's like, oh no, I like it. You should just keep it going. And then that's kind of like you can just kind of continue the vibe from there. I don't feel like it's also like that's super serious. I feel like depending on how many people you're having over, depending on who's kind of like gets there first. Like I feel like you could give a lot of power to that first person who shows up. To be like, how's this vibe going for you? Like keep it going?
Yeah.
Or like we gotta mix it up. But I mean, if I walked in and I heard this, I'd be like, we can keep this going. This is good.
Much different than what you guys picked. That's why when I did it, I was like, is this a holiday party thing? Because I totally got it wrong if that's what's supposed to happen.
No, I think you did good.
Well, with that, it's time for listener submissions. We have one this week from at 71DPI. They chose Good as New by Vacationer.
We only got one. Let's go ahead and give it a listen.
It's pretty good.
Yeah. Vacationer's cool. I'm into that.
Oh yeah. He had a comment as well. Let's see.
Oh yeah. Let me read the comment. I was listening to the song. It says something refreshing, chill, positive, and not embarrassing should a guest arrive early.
There you go.
Just gonna record scratch it.
You mean you don't put on the Aquabats when you're having company over?
You know,
no Slater, no Cupcake.
I saw a real act right this week. I don't want to like break it, but I was looking through Guitar Center's catalog, and they were advertising an Aquabats themed drum set, like a special edition Aquabats drum set, and it was like by DW or something. It wasn't some knockoff brand or some, just gimmicky thing.
Yeah, dude. Travis Barker used to play drums for the Aquabats. That's what he was doing when he got hired by Blink-182. The more you know.
Yeah. Okay. Well, with that wonderful B-sides, and so with that, it's time for our B-sides, which are songs that were very close to getting on the playlist, but, well, they made it to the party, but they were 30 minutes late, which is very uncouth nowadays, as I feel like Sarah told me that she was listening to something on the radio that the uncoolest thing to do is to be late to a party now.
I'm not a fan of it. But I did have some B-sides. In the chill wave camp, I had Can't Do Without You by Caribou. I always put on Thievery Corporation before parties. Any Thievery Corporation will do, but this week I was feeling the song Décollage. Same thing with Air. La Femme d'Argent is a good track to start with from them. And then if you're really having kind of a chill get together, Seu, let me make sure I pronounce this right. Seu Jorge, I believe is how you say his name. The Brazilian singer-songwriter who did the Portuguese covers of David Bowie songs for The Life Aquatic.
Oh.
If you haven't seen The Life Aquatic,
Yeah.
he he's an actor in the movie, but then he also did a bunch of songs for the soundtrack where he plays David Bowie songs on an acoustic guitar and sings them in Portuguese. And his cover of Rebel Rebel, I've always really enjoyed. So that always makes it on my house cleaning, prepping playlist. It's a great track.
Had a few different things this week. I feel like that new Paramore single would have been cool. We could do a little Talking Heads. Seems fun. It's not just me, it's everybody by Wayblood. It'd be fun. A little more down tempo, a little more chill. All My Love Is Coming Back to Me by S.G. Goodman. Queen of Spades by Juliana Riolino. Hurricane by Plains. I feel like Plains needs to get on this playlist because I've really been enjoying that album. It's a Fire by Portishead because I'm getting into that. I feel like I've already talked about it, but you haven't checked out Portishead. If you think you might like a trip hop.
I don't have any. I kind of just went through my list and played some stuff.
You knew what you wanted.
Until I came up with the one that kind of hit the spot. Because I try to put myself in this. It sounds like I'm copping out here, but I'm trying to do exactly what I would do if I was getting ready. I just finished vacuuming and getting ready for people to come over. And then I realized that I don't like it when people come to my house. I like to be by myself. So it's weird to say. I feel like I've confronted that in a while. So you can come visit. I like it when you guys come to visit. You're always welcome. But I just don't. I'm not the kind of person who's you know what, friends? 9 of you, come over. I just don't. I don't even think we have enough seats in our house to have 9 people over.
Well, Tyler, if people want to come to your dinner party, where can they find you?
Hey everyone, you can find my design and illustration work at rudepets.club. And as always, the socials, Rude Pets Club on Instagram and Twitter.
Sean, if people want tips on how to avoid throwing a dinner party, where can they get those from you?
You can find me on Instagram at TellySean.
And, Daft Punk is playing at my house, and you can come over. You can find me on the socials at TC Olmstead. All of these songs will be on the official No Repeat podcast playlist. We'll be back next week with another episode of No Repeat.